Well, all right, you guys. I um, I just did this video, and 3 minutes into it, the taping stopped. So I got to do it again with the same enthusiasm. This is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to everybody, particularly to um, uh, the Trento mining guy. Um, the just to mention Father's Day, my dad died April 26, 2022, and I miss him. And I wish I could call him up and say Happy Father's Day to him. But I'll show you. This is my dad. And I was very lucky. I was very lucky in the lottery of dads. I was lucky. On the back of his card, it says, it's an Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the warm rays of sun fall upon your home, and may the hand of a friend always be near. May green be on the grass you walk on. May blue be the skies above you. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. And I wish that for everybody on Father's Day. The purpose of this video is to try to make a briefer one. I did 2 hours or 2.5 hours yesterday. But this issue of MMTLP, it is my strongest opinion. It's not legal advice, it's not financial advice, but that after 500 days, we found out that no one is jumping to seeing our point of view, and no one is jumping to offer huge settlements. On the contrary, it looks like FINRA may have operated to limit losses for Wall Street. So whilst our actions, our hesitancy, our just state of shock may have made sense for months and maybe longer, I think it's really beholden on each of us to move our counterfeit shares of MMTLP to the real asset of NextBridge and do it as expeditiously as possible. And so I'm going to try to do shorter videos on it to get that across. This video is, okay, let's look at it from the idea that MMTLP gives you more choices. Hey, it's my property, you can't tell, it's my asset, you can't tell me what to do with it. I have more options. Let's go through that. Now I've written up a list so that I keep my presentation reasonably short. But I also printed out FINRA. This is from FINRA. And I'm only going to read 2 things today. Page 2, they say, this is from FINRA. On November 23rd, 2022, Metamaterials issued an announcement regarding the NextBridge MMTLP corporate action, stating that each holder of its Series A preferred shares, MMTLP, as of December 12, 2022, would become entitled to receive 1 share of the common stock of NextBridge for every 1 share of MMTLP held. It's the crux of our debate. Metamaterials also stated, according to FINRA, that the NextBridge shares would be distributed to MMTLP shareholders on December 14, 2022 at which time all MMTLP shares would be automatically canceled. Automatically canceled. And MMTLP holders would cease, MMTLP holders would cease to have any rights with respect to those shares. All right, that's one foundation. On page 3, FINRA says the MMTLP halt ended concurrently with the FINRA deletion of MMTLP symbol, which occurred on December 13, 2022. So I don't want to go into it because I want to keep this short, but there's two foundational elements that are as clear as they can be, that MMTLP is worthless on its own. It's worthless. It's nothing. It's deleted and it's canceled. So the question of this video is, let me check to see it's still recording. It is. Question of this video is, what could make a placeholder or a counterfeit entity like MMTLP, and then some brokerage firms, they call it NextBridge, but it's still just a placeholder. What could make it valuable to us? What could make it valuable? And I've got to be clear, I think I've already said this is not financial or legal advice, but I owned MMTLP, but as of March, I think it was March 28 of this year, I no longer have them. I've moved everything myself to NextBridge. Okay, what could make MMTLP, even if we don't move it, what could make this placeholder, this entry, worth anything to us? It's already deleted and it's already canceled. And it states specifically, MMTLP holders will cease to have any rights with respect to those shares. I mean, it's there in black and white. Okay, so what could make it valuable? I think it comes down to 4 things, or a combination of these 4. 1, we could win a settlement from a legal action. 2, we could win a settlement or have Congress oversee the implementation of a settlement from Congress. 3, we could have regulators impose a settlement. Or 4, our broker-dealers, the other side's prime brokers, or the hedge funds or the LLCs who sold shares that don't exist, that's our position, could start buying them back. They could be forced to buy them back. So in the legal action, I think that breaks down to the 2 days, the potential squeeze was taken from us by the trading halt. There's a lawsuit out there that in the body of the lawsuit claims, and I have no reason to doubt it, that there were shares traded at $2,400 a share on the 9th, I think. Money exchanged, and those were reversed. That could be a basis of a lawsuit. It could be just fraud from FINRA. It could be the basis of an ongoing lawsuit from Torchlight, MMAT, to MMTLP, the systemic fraud over all those years and everybody involved. It could be any number of, I'm not a lawyer, criminal or civil actions, or collusion, market manipulation, etc. So that could be legal. That could also apply to any settlement that we could argue in front of Congress, and certainly that would be the case also with the regulators. To date, there's been very little evidence that any of those 3 avenues, anything is happening quickly. And then the broker-dealers, they could be compelled by those first 3, but the other thing is if the carrying the undelivered, unborrowed, non-located shares becomes expensive to the prime brokers, they could force a resolution or a buy-in or a settlement. Okay, so what would be the catalyst? What would be the catalyst? I have 4 things down for my catalysts. I'll start with one that we can't predict, but it would certainly do it. If one of the bad guys were to be arrested somewhere, somehow, for something, and that could be bad guys in the regulatory side, in FINRA, in the prime brokers, the broker dealers, the criminals themselves, the offshore people, the maybe lawyers, the racketeering people that are paid to come in and confuse the word. Who knows? But we do know there's investigations going on because Wes Christian's doing one or more, and he's going to be interviewed by Junk Savvy on June 24 at 6 p.m. Eastern on Twitter Spaces. It could be one of the attorney generals that are getting involved. It's not going to be New York, clearly, or Georgia. They have more important fish to fry, but it could be something like that. There's politicians that are now talking about this. I don't know if the FBI or the DOJ are involved here, but we know they were by information and belief. We know they're involved in Finger and GTII, possibly DJT. Well, this is out there. Maybe they're involved here. So anyway, an arrest somewhere would be a catalyst, and it could really change our situation overnight. Also, your work, the slow, persistent drip, 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 and pressure of all of your efforts on Congress, the media, and the regulators might achieve a breakthrough at any time. And that could happen. That could happen next week. It could happen in September. The third thing is, if we were to achieve undeniable proof of a systemic, massive, unsettled position in MMTLP, in Torchlight and MMAT. My contention is they all blur together. How could that happen? It could happen with blue sheets. It could happen in a congressional hearing. These things could happen. It could happen as a result of the lawsuit from intercoastal waterways, I think it is. So those are the potential catalysts. When could this happen? When? Well, I've only got a couple points on this. It's only been about a year and a half, and almost a year and a half. So maybe it could be soon, but it could drag out. The answer is we don't know when. What we do know so far is there's been the time that it takes for people to deny this is an issue, slowly accept it's an issue, and then for some people to say, we got to do something about it. There's that. But then there's the pushback from the regulators, some parts of Congress, media, the Twitterati. There's just a pushback. And how much longer does that go on? The second thing I have to say is there are, and I guess I already said it, so I'll hit it quickly. There are many investigations ongoing. Politicians in states are now aware, and we are making progress on hearings and other stocks are showing this up. So, like GME and DJT and others. So, perhaps soon, perhaps soon. But when is unknowable. It could drag out another months, years, but perhaps soon. And then the question is how much, how valuable this MMTLP / it sometimes says NextBridge unit of bookkeeping that has no value. These are the things that could make it valuable, maybe, but how valuable? How valuable? Well, there's a series of arguments, and I did a long video yesterday which went through, I didn't realize it until I got into it, went pretty much through what the bad guys are going to argue. And I'm not going to go back through that right now because I'm trying to keep this to a digestible size. Essentially, though, the arguments are that we are foolish, stupid, and should have taken care of our own situation, should have known better, and it's on us. And there's other stronger arguments that they make that I think will appear in settlement talks, but I want to save that for additional video. All right, so how valuable, if some of these things happen, could it be? Well, I think it's a handful of values that would be the starting place. There's going to be an argument that only the original holders of Torchlight deserve this. I think that's easily swept aside. It's not a very good argument. But if that's the case, if that prevails, then the original, however they can prove that, Torchlight people get money and the rest of us wouldn't. That wouldn't be so exciting. There will be an argument, well, these trades shouldn't have been entered, let's just return everybody's money. Well, that's not thrilling, but it's a possibility. They may argue that the $3 as the last trade is what the system's settlement should be based upon. They may argue that the highest paid for the MMTLP was $12 or so, and that's as high as we can go. They may each individually or together have a gray market where they come offer to buy back MMTLP and get a release from us and do it by phone calls and slowly bring the price upward. It's possible. They will start low, though, and there's no telling how high they'd be willing to go, but maybe not very high at all. And then there could be a negotiated price led probably by Greg McCabe, but all of the various parties meet over a conference table on Zoom and duke out a negotiated price. The low end is going to be all these things I said. The upside is going to be a negotiation, and I'll go into that on another video. What the bad guy's arguments are going to be. I'm trying to see the positive here. What could MMTLP be worth? The final thing is if we start getting a clear indication of what NextBridge shares are worth, the value of NextBridge per share, and then you have a black and white. That may come out just between attorneys, or it may come out in a report. It may come out because NextBridge is trying to sell part of its properties. It may come out as a subpoena. But if we got a third-party report, an engineering report, and it was big, that would trigger settlements. But how big could that be? I've done numbers with you that, leaving I'll tell you my number. My number is 1150, but let's leave the high number out. That's for the lawyers and the system and a dividend, and it's based on non-diluted 165 million shares versus 165 million shares of NextBridge, non-dilution and all that. But and I think Greg McCabe in his original tweets said any settlement better start at $600 per share, or it's going to be, the answer is going to be not only hell no, but hell no, and here's a lawsuit. So I think there's hopes for a really high number if we base it on kind of a negotiated / NextBridge value. But if we go with NextBridge right now and we try to be as conservative as possible, I don't know. I came up with 185 to 385 range, and if you chop that in half, chop it in quarter, you're talking maybe in the $50 to $100 range right now. But my point is, if that became more visible, that might be how much we're talking about, or more, or much more. Then you're going to say, well, what about the 2 days trading? What if the solution is to give us the 2 days they stole from us, they limited from us? Well, my first answer to that is they did the U3 halt for a reason. So I don't think they are going to give trading back to us in any meaningful way. But my answers on the 2 days trading, number one, it's just not going to happen. MMTLP doesn't exist. There's no court that's going to demand it. I don't think the regulators are going to demand it. We might, with the Twitterati pushing us, we might ask for it from Congress, but hopefully saner minds will prevail and let us know that it's not happening. But even if it were to happen, why would the system set it up, even if it's just closing only and it has other quote-unquote guardrails? Why would they set it up to squeeze? I don't believe they will. In fact, if there's 2 days of trading, to put a value on it, I doubt you get more than 5 cents a share, just enough money to make it worth the processing the paperwork. Maybe it's 10 cents. You won't, I don't think that's going to be valuable for NextBridge. All right, so in summary, there's a lot of arguments that MMTLP is worth nothing. There's some arguments that it's worth a little bit. The most important way to get a big value is if we catch the system out and we either are able to prove irrefutably that there is this big short position, counterfeit position, failed to locate position. And the other way is if NextBridge goes about its business and proves up its per share value. So the key things involved, NextBridge can't trade and it has to set about its business. How can we help? In both those cases, to catch out the system, they need a share count. In order for NextBridge to drill its wells and prove up the oil, they need to be free of some of this debate. They need to be able to raise money, and they need to know who their shareholders are. What can we do? The best thing we can do is move our MMTLP counterfeit shares, because that's what they are, over to, they're just a placeholder. It says so in the FINRA and the MMAT, over to the physical shares of NextBridge. Go claim our assets. You do that by transferring your MMTLP to AST. You can do it for essentially free right now. I know some people can't afford the $60 or $80. Write a letter and tell them, you got me in this situation, you caused it, put it in your own words, but I expect you to take care of it for free. I can't afford it. And I think they do it, but put it in writing. The argument is that the physical shares were transferred already. It's already happened. Well, if that's true, why don't we have them? Why don't we have them? It is true that MMTLP was exchanged for physical shares of Nextbridge, 165 million. It is true that MMAT and Nextbridge honored their obligations, and those shares are sitting at DTCC/AST. They're there. We just have to go ask for them. And I'll get into the negatives of not doing it. I just wanted to try to come up with some value, some reason to hold on to MMTLP. And every way I look, it's pretty weak. It's a pretty thin read. It's a pretty slender possibility that MMTLP has any value. The only value MMTLP really has is that you can exchange it for physical shares. The rest of this relies on other people to pay for lawsuits. Very few of us can. Other people to see the horror of this and enforce a major penalty on Wall Street. Well, where have they been all these years? Where have they been the last year and a half? I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to count on that. Timing is going to be difficult. If you move, I have already moved your MMTLP to Nextbridge, and we give the full share count by definition to McCabe, he can negotiate a settlement. That could make it quicker. He could also get about proving up his reserves. That could make a settlement happen more quickly. So there's no downside I can see to moving. These other issues, if they win, the settlement is going. Number one, it's going to take time. There will be no trading ever, but if there were, it's going to take time and a process. They have to notify everybody. So the very fact that it goes through law, Congress, or all the lawyers in the financial system, it's going to take time. Well, in the meantime, Nextbridge could be proving up its reserves, possibly giving you cash distributions, possibly announcing their per share value, which is a benefit to everybody. We're helping ourselves if we move over to Nextbridge. More than that, we actually can get distributions from operations, and we can have an NAV of an oil and gas company. So I'm going to leave it there. I want to leave it under 30 minutes. Well, I'll do some more videos. I wish everybody happy Father's Day, particularly for people who lost their father. I hope there's a moment of peace for you and love and connection. And I remain steadfast, although it's not legal advice, it's not financial advice, it's my opinion, that the best way you can get a rate of return on this disaster, this money that's been tied up, this money you expected to trade out of, this money that everyone's telling you you're stupid, conspiracy theorist, and everyone's confusing you on the Twitterati are confusing you. The best way to get a return is go own what's real. So my urging, do it for your father, do it for your children, do it for yourself. Move your MMTLP, which in one case, they say it ceases to have any rights, and it's canceled. And in the other case, they say it's deleted. At least the symbol's deleted. So that's my video. Happy Father's Day, everyone, and happy Father's Day, Dad. And thank you for being my dad. Cheers, everybody.